Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video here. And I have day two of our active sort of stretch here. That will go into tomorrow across northeast down through the southeast. But focus on today here. Um, this is our sort of risk we have today. I'm not really going to worry about this marginal risk today across Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Charleston, down Tennessee here, as I think by sunset, most of the severe weather will be kind of done, and I think by then, um, as it moves across that marginal area, maybe a very isolated damaging wind gust, but I don't think the storms will be too strong. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But our main sort of target here is in this light and enhanced risk here. Cincinnati in this enhanced risk, Louisville, Evansville, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, dead center in it. Columbus, Lexington, Bowling Green, and the slight risk. So, including Chicago, and it's a pretty large risk area here. Pretty large risk area, and this sort of extends down south into northern Texas as well. Here is our tornado threat here, and pretty broad, sort of 5% area here. But I do think most of these, most of the tornado chances will kind of occur um, sort of in this general area here. So like eastern Illinois, western Indiana, northern Illinois, Indiana, sort of in this general area, including Chicago. Maybe not Indianapolis, maybe not even Fort Wayne, but I think that's going to be the best area. And I'll sort of go over why I do them. But um, again, this 5% risk does extend further northeast and east in general, including Cincinnati, Louisville, and Detroit. Um, I think by then embedded sort of spin ups in the potential straight line uh, formation that will bound to sort of form through Indiana might be the risk on this sort of edge of the 5%. More maybe potentially more, I wouldn't say discrete, but semi-discrete um, activity sort of further west in this 5%. But just overall, be weather aware. Pay attention to tornado warnings. Um, definitely have ingredients to support that. So you don't want to be messing around. But mainly today was going to be our damaging wind threat here, and we have this 30%, essentially where that enhanced risk is. Indianapolis, Louisville, Evansville, Cincinnati, Columbus, Detroit, Lexington, Bowling Green, and that slight risk, 15%. So, and then here's our hail risk, mainly further south here, and then across like Evansville up north, fairly out of Indianapolis, where we have better instability, mid-level instability across these regions. So hail will be sort of a risk down there. I think further south it will be more of a risk for sure. So let's sort of look at our surface map here and get a overall idea what's going on. Um, we can see our low pressure here centered over northern Missouri, and this is going to slowly move sort of east northeast as the day moves on, northeast-ish. And yeah, this is what's going to be bringing that sort of severe weather event across the far western portions of the Ohio Valley to the Midwest. So um, yeah, as this moves off to the northeast, that will um, further set up the risk, especially across Illinois, Indiana, and southern Michigan. So here is let's just be on that. But yeah, here's our surface observations. Kind of a lot going on right now. We can see where our low pressure is right here across northern Missouri. We can see some convection along central Illinois moving northward. Um, Mid 70s, upper 70s, low 80s across western Indiana, southern Illinois. I'll be looking just in this general area, but I see a lot of mid upper 70s. Dew points definitely going to be in the low to mid 70s as well. Very moist air mass. So let's look at our temperatures. So, da-da-da. All right, and we can see, let's just kind of look at this real quick. We see some low 80s, southern Illinois, far western Indiana, mid 70s for the most. Yeah, it's trend. The HRR is trending fairly. It's trending a few degrees cooler than what surface observations are kind of sort of hinting at here. Um, we have 79s across southern Illinois, and we have some 79s in western Indiana, but no 81s or anything like that. And even further north up here, closer to Chicago, it's 72, 73, but surface observations have 76, 75. So that's a 3 to 4 degree difference, and that could definitely play a role into um, a thunderstorm strengthening and um, how destabilized our atmosphere is. So something to watch out. Let's look at our dew points. See how our dew points are doing at least. See how they are again. We can see some low 70s, mid 70s. I mean, a real good mixture here. Mainly some mid 70s across much of Indiana, southern Illinois, or yeah, southern Illinois. Some low 70s, upper 60s, much of Illinois. Um, some mid 60s across Kentucky here. Um, well, let's see. Some six, three. So yeah, I mean, it's doing fairly well. Maybe I think it's doing for the most part fairly well here. We do have our little concentration of mid 70s across southern Illinois through southern Indiana, even parts of northwestern Kentucky here. We can kind of see those mid 70s across that same area here, this general area. And then kind of lower 70s, yeah, up through the north here. So yeah, they triple are doing much better with the dew points. Doing much better with the dew points. So let's sort of look at our upper air winds here, see what we're kind of working with, and I think these are going to be key today. These are going to be key today. First off, we can see our trough here, pretty. I would say pretty neutral here. Nothing really sticks out. Not really a strong trough either. Sort of modest. But as we move on, this is 11 a.m. Central Time. Um, we can see the injection of the 500 millibar winds coming into the risk area, much of Illinois, Indiana. Where 40 to 50 knots at the 500 millibar level will be sort of taking place. As we move on into the afternoon, we can see that sort of patch of 50 knots across central Illinois, working its way into west central sort of Indiana, along where along the closer to the low pressure, we'll have winds to like 40 knots closer. That'd be a low pressure center. As we move on throughout the evening, this is about 4 or 5 o'clock. We can see a nice swath of 35 to um, or 40 to 50 knot sort of winds here across the Ohio Valley, setting up pretty well southern Michigan through sort of northeastern Oklahoma here. Central Illinois and much of Indiana seems to be right over this by this point. So we move on throughout the evening. That sort of will shift off to the northeast and weaken some. So again, it seems like our sort of between 12 and like 3 p.m. we're gonna have our 500 millibar winds be at our max. And that's gonna be across sort of east and west central Illinois and Indiana, according to HREF, which is a ensemble mean taking uh, 10 separate model runs. So pretty good agreement. Pretty good agreement. Let's look at our low level jet here. See how it's comparing to our 500 millibar. And this is around 12 o'clock. We can see our low pressure sort of southern Iowa here, moving off to the northeast and the right. Below at the base of our low pressure, we can see our low level jet sort of kicking in, 30 to sort of 40 knot winds. Definitely substantial enough. And as we move on throughout the evening here, this is kind of where I wanted to, as I mentioned several minutes ago, at the tornado threats. I think the best threat is going to be in this sort of area right through here. And this is kind of going to be the start of that topic here. And we can see our close low, northern Illinois, um, moving north of Chicago at this point. And again, this is around 3, 4 p.m. here. And we can see directly south of this close low, we can see our low level jet here. And pretty impressive. It's going to be ample enough across western Kentucky, southern Illinois, Indiana, even parts of Missouri here. But we have a fairly high concentration here of 40 to 45 knot winds right in through here. And that's kind of right where that tornado risk is in play. Our 500 millibar winds are also overlapping decently well, 35 to 45 knots in this general area. It's a little bit more significant further south and sort of southeast, but good overlapping with that. Let's see how this sort of evolves as we go throughout the evening. Again, we have a nice sort of swath of 40 knot winds there, and then the low level jet really begins to start to pick up across much of Indiana by this point, and sort of northern western Kentucky as well. And we're gonna have little patches of 40 knot winds in our low level jet. And I think if you get any sort of discrete, especially by this point here, by about 3 p.m., if you get any sort of discrete activity in western Indiana, northern Indiana, even semi-discrete, by 3 o'clock and up and through about 5, 6, 7 o'clock, they're gonna take advantage of the sort of increased winds, and we can see that low level jet sort of really as that close low begins to strengthen, that low level jet really begins to ramp up overnight. Um, but won't have much instability to work with, fortunately. So low level jet seems to possibly, as that kicks in by about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Um, Going to have to watch that for sure. So I do want to sort of look at our one thing I forgot to sort of look at here, and so our excessive rain. We're gonna have um some potential for flash flooding, especially across already saturated soils in western Kentucky, southern Indiana, Illinois. We have this marginal risk for northern Appalachia here. Um, continue to stay aware of flash flood warnings. And I'm gonna do just a 24-hour sort of ensemble mean run here, and we can see most of our rain will be kind of occurring along that close low, but we do see some pockets across northern Appalachia, then western Kentucky, southern Indiana, even parts of the coal fields up through West Virginia. A good half inch to an inch on the ensemble mean runs is a pretty good indication that you'll have some pretty heavy rains, some steady rains potentially. Um, not every, of course, not everyone's going to get closer to an inch of rain or whatever, but just be aware for flash flooding. It's been a very serious week across West Virginia. We got to take it serious. So just be weather aware on that end. So let's kind of look at our bulk shear here, our 0 to 6 kilometer deep layer shear. This is going to play a crucial role into today's tornado threat, I believe. And as we move on, this is around 1 p.m. We can see our close low over sort of northern Missouri's with far western Illinois. It's going to be moving northeast, and I keep doing that. But we can see our bulk shear here, pretty impressive. We have 35 to 40 knot valleys extending down to really southern Indiana. We have a huge swath of 50 to 60 knot winds of Chicago, sort of northwestern Indiana, northeastern Illinois, across central Illinois. So yeah, we have our nice bulk shear, and as we move on throughout the evening, we still have pockets of 40 to 45 knot bulk shear winds across much of Indiana, Illinois, southern Michigan, Chicago as well. So our deep layer shear is definitely going to be in play today. Um, so it's just going to be riding that sort of close low. Sort of northeast and east of that close low will be in the sort of bulk shear max here. So let's look at our surface base cape here. This is H4 model. Say that already, which I don't think I did. But yeah, this H4 model. So their surface base cape. It's about 12 o'clock here, and we can see a nice healthy swath of 2,500 to 3,000 joules per kilogram. Really much across much of central Illinois, central Indiana, down through much of Kentucky, Tennessee. Um, Instability, of course, will be greatest down um, across the western Kentucky and Tennessee. So we move on throughout the afternoon here. Um, by about 3 o'clock, we can see some nice instability, really. Much of the state of Kentucky, West Virginia, 2,000 joules per kilogram, sort of reaching southern Ohio, western West Virginia. Across the main risk area, ample, more than sufficient cape here, 2,500 to 3,000 joules per kilogram. These storms are going to have enough instability, enough energy to work with. With the upper air winds that we had gone over, it's definitely um, ingredients mashing up together to cause a potential widespread sort of severe weather event here. And as we move on throughout the evening, of course, that instability dies down fairly quick, especially once those storms sort of eat it up. So let's look at our mixed layer cape here. By 1 o'clock here, we can see our convections really start to fire up here by 1 o'clock across Illinois. Um, but yeah, mixed layer cape is pretty high across this area here. 2,000 joules per kilogram, really reaching across central Kentucky, central up past central Indiana, and of course that extends down southwest here across Tennessee, Kentucky. But 2,000, 2,500 joules per kilogram seems likely on the mixed layer cape. But as we move on throughout the day, that's going to sort of fizzle out, especially across the northern areas. But we still have 1,500 to 2,000 joules, and a lot better mixed layer cake down south across Kentucky and western Tennessee. And that sort of extends off to the northeast. Still some 2,000 values across West Virginia, southeastern Ohio, eastern Kentucky as well. So let's kind of look at what the radar is going to possibly show us today. And this is, we can see our sort of low pressure, closed low across Missouri. This is 10 a.m. So probably about right about now. And I would love to actually kind of display this maybe here, see what's going on. Yes, across central, we do have that convection across central Illinois, even far sort of western Illinois here. Um, Further south, you can sort of see probably where this low pressure is here. Yeah, right in through here, so we can see the spin of it. We can see the convection. It's sort of popping out toward its east and northeast. But back to the model run here. H bar is doing okay. Um, I don't think it's actually doing that well. But by 11 o'clock, it's saying that convection should really start to blossom across western Illinois here. Let's move on. This sort of blossoming will continue to take place here, and by 1 o'clock, we can see some sort of semi-discrete activity across the western Indiana through sort of potentially northeastern Illinois. We can see sort of the main line begin to take place here as it moves across central Illinois here, and as we keep going here, you can see our sort of semi-discrete activity, possibly semi-discrete activity, northern Illinois, northern Indiana here. If it takes, like I said, um, really, I mean, that low level jet really kicks in by 3 o'clock here. Um, so possibly up through, yeah, I mean, there's still a chance for northern Indiana as that surface low begins, even southern Michigan. So just be aware over there. If any of these can be discrete, especially early on, even because even if these storms fire on a few hours before the bulk of that low level shear begins to sort of move over, it's still going to have sufficient low level shear to work with. So you have got to be paying attention to these semi-discrete storms across sort of northeastern Illinois and central and northern um, Indiana. We can see that sort of move out, and by 4 o'clock, it's going through central Indiana, western Kentucky, damaging wind threats, embedded sort of is possible. As we move on throughout the evening, these storms really begin to sort of die down by 8 o'clock, and we can still see some nice bowing segments. And that's what I'm saying. We can still see an isolated damaging wind gust, but I don't really think this line will really hold its strength. And yeah, by midnight, it's really fizzled out, other than the coal fields, according to this. So, um, I wouldn't say it's a simple setup, but it's a pretty it's a setup where you can sort of dissect it enough to kind of know what will happen for the most part. So, nothing too complicated. Really, we're just gonna when those low level winds sort of kick in by afternoon and overlap with that 500 millibar sort of swath across central Indiana and then much of western southern Illinois. Has enough instability. Our dew points are going to stay very high across the day. Um, I think someone's definitely going to get some significant wind out of this. Probably 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts is possible, especially across eastern Illinois, western Indiana, even into central Indiana. I think 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts is not out of the question today. Um, Quick spin ups as well along the line, but I think your greatest threat is going to be these semi-discrete sort of activity across northern Indiana, sort of northeastern Illinois, including Chicago. I don't think it goes as far south as Indianapolis or even Fort Wayne, but it's sort of in this general area here. We'll be seeing maybe definitely a few tornado lines. So that's kind of it for the risks today. I'm sure I know there's sort of more I could talk about, but just in general, that's about it for today. Here's that risk area again for today, and then tomorrow I'll quickly show um, nice slight risk, really from Canada down through central North Carolina. That marginal risk kind of extends to the south as well. Even Ohio Valley, again, could get a few rounds and more flooding possible. In fact, I'm pretty sure we can. Here's our day two. So marginal. I would not be shocked if a slight risk gets introduced across PA and parts of West Virginia, Maryland, Virginia, even possibly. Wouldn't be shocked. We have a lot of saturated ground through there and lots of rain and thunderstorms in the forecast. So um, we also have a slight risk for heavy snow on when was that? June 20th. Nice. So yeah, I'll have a video on this tomorrow discussing it. Mainly going to be focusing on the Mid-Atlantic, sort of southeast and eastern regions here. Even the Ohio Valley, kind of touch on that as well. So I hope everyone has a good day, stay weather aware, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.